What's happening, everybody? Welcome once again to this live Thursday edition of Syracuse Sports. We like to flip on the button and do it live every Thursday and talk Syracuse sports issues with you. You got Brent X, you got Chris Carlson from syracuse.com. Happy opening day, by the way, Chris. I don't think I've ever asked you this, who your baseball squad is.
So I am with you. I am with you and Donna on Team Red Sox.
How did I not know this?
Yeah.
How have I known you all these years and we've never talked Red Sox baseball? That's incredible. You learn something new every day, even though I've been working with you for how long now? Like 10 years or something something crazy like that. I'm losing track, but
we got too much Syracuse stuff to talk about. Baseball doesn't come up in the office very often, unfortunately.
Oh my God. How did I not know that about Chris Carlson, that he is a Red Sox fan? So
I grew up in that part of Connecticut where it's 50-50. Like you're either Yankees or Red Sox, and it's like right in the middle.
So we're hoping our Sox get back in the postseason this year, but happy opening day to all you baseball fans. Opening day just seems to be random. Oh, yeah, it's March 27th. Let's do opening day, or let's play a game between the Dodgers and Cubs in Japan in the middle of March. Baseball can't seem to figure this out, but it is back. So hope you guys are getting into baseball. The Masters just around the corner, all these great spring events. Syracuse football, spring practice well underway. Chris and I are going to play a little game of what we know and what we don't know so far in watching Syracuse football spring practice. Perhaps an oversight on somebody's mock draft at ESPN, but they only had 2 Syracuse players selected in a 7-round mock draft, which will lead us to an interesting discussion of how many guys we think are on track to get picked as we enter really the home stretch here for the draft. More interviews and visits and workouts, and we're still about a month away, but we're really going to start to sort out who's in and who's out of the draft. But, Chris, it is portal season, and Syracuse is out there looking to fill a roster. You and I did I don't think people really say emergency pods anymore. We hopped on and reacted to the news that J.J.
Is that
Starling,
uncool? Is that uncool now if we have an emergency pod?
I don't know what the kids call it these days.
Okay.
Right? You just put the siren up there like, oh my God, we got to talk about this, right? But we did a live reaction pod on Tuesday when J.J. Starling and Donnie Freeman decided to come back, which was huge news. And now Alex Klein and Adrian Autry and company at least know what they're building around, of course, with the additions of Sadiq White and Kyan Anthony coming in next year, Luke Fennell and Aaron Womack as well. So I thought Chris and I would play a fun game here of just who's on your portal wish list, right? You can go into the portal and add your dream addition from the portal just based on what you think Syracuse needs, the players that are out there, some guys getting buzz. And these don't even have to be players that have been connected to Syracuse, that are interested in Syracuse. This is just, man, if I'm Alex Klein and it's like a fantasy draft and I got my pick and I can go in that portal and take whoever I want. And our Syracuse Sports Insiders had a couple responses to this too that we'll throw out there. But Chris, I give you the floor here. Okay.
Oh, they're probably going to be smarter than me because I have been football centric. We talked before. I was going to take Donovan Dent, who is everybody's choice in the portal. It was the obvious choice, but apparently he's probably close to a decision. But and it is probably not Syracuse. So to me, like I think need number one is a point guard. Like I think you could survive, to me, if you wanted to play small with Donnie Freeman at the center. That's not what they're going to do. They're going to go get a center, but to me, point guard is need number 1 versus number 2. So I'm going to take North Carolina's Elliot Cadeau. Connected to Syracuse a little bit during his recruitment, although that might have been old friend Adam Weitzman sort of trying to work his magic at that point. But he's from the Northeast. He is transferring from North Carolina. He fills the point guard need. He can shoot it at least a little bit. He's a pass-first point guard, which I like with J.J. Starling, who I think is going to function better as a scorer than a point guard, personally. And he can shoot it a little bit at the point. So there's another guy, Jaleel Bethia, who is in the portal too, but he does not. He didn't shoot it well last year, but he does have a reputation for a good shooter. So I don't know. Maybe he should be number one, but Cadeau. Put me down for Cadeau.
Okay.
Probably not going to happen. Big pond for Syracuse to be fishing in, to be grabbing a guy from North Carolina, but that's what I'm going with.
I really debated between the point guard and the center because it's 1 and 1A, right? They certainly need a point guard, whether that's a veteran point guard or if you can get a guy that's got a couple years of eligibility to come in and run this show, right? You've got JJ back, which is great, but you have Kine who's going to play the 2, and they need a pure point guard next year, preferably one that's a little bigger than Jaquan Carlos. And I get how important that is, but I just can't get past having a center that can do a lot. I mean, to go out there and get Eddie Lampkin this year, who Eddie had his issues health-wise until he overcame them and was great down the stretch. Eddie doesn't get off the floor as much as you would want a center to, right? Athletically, he had some challenges, but man, that guy was the heart and soul of that team. He gave you basically a double-double every night. He was a great team leader. He was out in the community. Like, you got a lot out of an Eddie Lampkin, and I'm intrigued by what you can get at that position. And Chris, when I saw Austin Rapp out of the mighty Portland Pilots, 14 points a game, 6 rebounds per game, 3 assists per game, shoots 40%, and he is a terrific three-point shooter. And I'm watching this guy shoot.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I know you can't fall in love with highlight videos, right? Because it's all the best stuff. But, man, if you can shoot, you can shoot. And this guy can shoot. And I'm thinking, okay, you put Austin Rapp in the middle, who's a threat to come out to the three-point line, but can score inside. Now you pair him with Donnie. Now you pair him with Sadiq White, who's a rim protector. And from everything we've heard, yes, he's a freshman and has to make that leap, but is a good defender and wants to play defense. And in this day and age, if you can give me a center that can shoot like that and is going to cause fits for opposing defenses, I'm going to take that guy. I'm enamored with him. I hope that Syracuse is in on him. A lot of teams are in on him. He's one of those players that kind of, this is what happens now, Chris, when you play at these mid-major lower levels, you're essentially the minor league now for the big boys. Look at the Sweet 16. It's all major conference teams now, right? And he seems to be one of the guys at the top of the list. Given that there's such a premium on talented centers in the portal, I get him and hope I can get a quality point guard because I think there's more of them out there.
And his strengths, you know, the way you're describing him, his strengths sort of match up with what Syracuse needs in that, right, he wouldn't have to clog up the middle, which you're trying to open up for JJ driving the ball.
Yes.
So you'd still be able to space the floor because he would be a shooter. So that is a good pick. You're selling me.
That's my guy. Shoots 35% from three-point range, which for a center, I'll take that every time. Now,
yeah, you have to respect that. Yep.
My 1A choice, Chris, I don't know if you've got a couple. You threw out some good names there, but I want to go to one of our insiders, Jake M. I'm intrigued by this guy, too. Jake says, one guy from the portal, Kobe McGee from Drexel. Syracuse needs shooting, 44% from 3. Sounds like good shooting, right? I know some people are hesitant because, Jair Davis, Jaquan Carlos, Lucas Taylor are coming from the Georgia States and the Delawares and the Hofstras of the world. And where do you put Drexel on that list? But I think Kobe McGee, from what I've seen and a couple of people that I've seen do analysis of him out there, feels like he can make that jump up. Feels like he can make – if you're shooting 45% from three-point range, I don't care what your league you're in. I want you on my roster, and I want to see if you can make that jump up and do it at the ACC level.
Well, if you remember the story that Donnie DeToto wrote on Alex Klein, like I think one of the things that he mentioned in there, right, is like, shooting tends to translate. Like if you can shoot at one level, you can shoot at all levels. Duncan Robinson was a Division III player at Williams College who, moved up and was like that perfect type of 3-and-D role player at Michigan, right? Like if you can, and
good example.
He had to work on defense, and they had to get that to where it was a playable level. But like he was the perfect guy who showed that he could fill the role at the lower level and then come up. Versus, Jair Davis was like a scorer. So like, are you going to be able to score in all of the same ways, at the higher level than the lower level? Are you going to be able to command the game at point guard like Jaquan Carlos could at the lower level up at the ACC? I think that transition is tougher to sort of, know that it's going to translate than shooting. If you can shoot, you can shoot. So
That is true.
I like that. I like that.
That is true. And there's a player that Syracuse has expressed interest in, and you wonder how this translates, Chris. Amarian Dickerson from Robert Morris, who was the Defensive Player of the Year in the Horizon League. So is that something that translates up, right? And somebody brought it up to me that Jaquan Carlos was also all defense at Hofstra. I said, that's fair, but I want to look up just so I have the numbers correctly here, but I believe Dickerson is about 7 inches taller and plays a different position than Jaquan Carlos. So I'm more willing to take my chances on that as opposed to a guard where if you're that small, he's 6'7", 185, and he's a forward, which, look, Syracuse needs to stock a couple of forwards here. And Chris, to me, the importance here is, and there's a theme developing, it's not only that you can play defense, it's the want to play defense. I think they've got to put a priority on players, and they did that with Sadiq White, as we mentioned a moment ago, that can play defense, want to play defense, and have a track record of. If you're the Defensive Player of the Year in what's a pretty decent league, I'm going to take my chances that I can elevate you and harness that energy and to use a football phrase, that want to on the defensive end. So I'm intrigued by him too. And that's a name that Syracuse has actually been in contact with. He's not just on a wish list here.
And I will say this as I don't know how they pick their all-conference teams and how they do their awards there, but as somebody that has been a voter in a smaller conference, like the games aren't really on TV. You're probably not spending your free time searching out those games. You're watching whatever's on ESPN. You see a guy once or twice, and then you sort of at the end of the year, you look at like the stats, right? And if a guy has steals, it's like, all right, there's like he fits on my all defensive team. So, you have to do deeper scouting, but Jaquan Carlos, I feel like he is a result maybe of getting on the all defensive team by the Chris Carlson small school voting process, which I will deny, but that is how a lot of people do it.
Patent pending at this point here. So I just pulled it up cold here. Horizon League stats. And do you go by steals? Do you go by, blocks and steals? So Dickerson had, let's see, he had 53 blocks. Or I'm sorry, no, he had 82 blocks. So he was the second leading shot blocker next to Gabe Dines from Youngstown State, who I also believe is in the portal, if I'm not mistaken. And so I think it's pretty much a shot blocking reputation here, Chris, because I do not see Dickerson in the steals category, at least in the top. Just going through it here. I know this isn't intriguing live podcasting here, but I just wanted to get a sense of it. So it looks like it's his reputation as a shot blocker that got him that. No, and I'll take that because they need rim protectors. So,
and
we're solving all the world's problems right here for Syracuse live on the podcast.
We've talked about Evan Mayakawa ratings and stuff on this podcast before, and he does have him as a plus defender. Okay. Whether it translates, we'll see. But another sort of statistical analysis mind that does view him as an above-average college basketball defender by a pretty good amount.
So as we speak, no one has been added from the portal, and that process takes a little longer because you're sorting through everybody. Maybe there's some players still playing in the tournament that you're going to target once they get into the portal. Guys have to come on visits, and it's more of a process but at least they're this 3 days in, Chris, and you don't have a lingering player other than our friend Petar. Now, we had a little mix-up with Petar earlier this week. We thought Petar was coming back, and then Petar was undecided, kind of like, when a 7-year-old's, they tell you what they want for dinner, and 5 minutes later, they're like, no, I don't want that, right? So we're still waiting to see if Petar is going to be back on this squad next year, but knowing that Donnie and JJ are back certainly will help going forward. That's hoops on the football front. Okay, and I'll put Sam's question up here as kind of a bubble to surround this conversation, Chris. Sam's question to us about football was, what two position groups, are you most concerned with so far? So maybe that'll fit into what we're about to discuss. So Chris and I have been to all the spring practices so far, and they're going to keep going here until so the spring game is April 12th. There's a couple of practices scheduled after that. However, the Syracuse-Colorado spring game gets approved, it's going to throw this all into a whole different conversation. So that happens, we'll adjust, and that will be awesome if it does. I'm all for it. I don't know why the rule exists, frankly. I mean, I do know why. I just don't agree with it. I think in 2025, you should be able to play another team in spring football if you want to, especially if you're going to build some things around it, as Deion Sanders and Fran Brown have said they're going to. So if the NCAA actually expedites something for once and an oversight committee approves this and it happens, I think it'll help to answer some of these questions about this team. So we'll see if that goes through. But based on what we've seen so far.
The rule is archaic, right? Like it was created in 1990. Yes. It was created amidst the power struggle between NCAA presidents and athletic directors, and they were very concerned about athletes not spending enough time in the classroom, not having enough free time to themselves. It was a very, very quaint time in the land of college sports when that.
I hate to laugh at that, but I mean, in 2025, like that's a joke. Come on, give me a break. It was kind of a joke even then. But yeah, that is an antiquated stance on everybody's part there. So we'll see if the NCAA does the right thing for once here. Until then, though, Chris, I thought we'd play a little game of here's what we know and what we don't know. Through camp. All right. And spoiler alert, I do have a column coming out about this tomorrow. If you do subscribe to the Syracuse Sports newsletter, which you should, which comes out every Thursday, by the way, a little shameless plug here from Uncle Brent, you've already read it. So you know what I'm talking about here. Look, Ricky Collins is the quarterback of this team. Ricky Collins looks the best out there. Mind you, I'm watching practice. But from what I've seen, he passes the look test. He's the best thrower out there, combined with his, I like to call it zippy mobility, which adds an element to the offense, which Kyle McCord did not. Kyle McCord did okay last year as the quarterback of this team.
He was mobile enough.
Stanford game, they lost that game, but flying through the air, they're John Elway style. But now it's a weapon that you can build into the offense. You targeted this guy out of the portal. He was tutored at LSU under Joe Sloan, who made Jaden Daniels a Heisman Trophy winner and is about to make Grant Nussmeier a draft pick in 2026. He'll be there one more year. Elite 11. He could make upwards of $1 million in NIL money here. Like, you don't target a player like this and not make him your starting quarterback unless he just comes here and completely falls on his face, which he has not done so far. Now they're putting Michael Johnson Jr. into the first team as well. They are making this a true competition in a sense. But Ricky's getting most of the first-team reps, looks the best at practice, and basically, Chris, to this point, has done nothing to make them say, uh-oh, we goofed here, right? Now, you got a couple of scrimmages coming. Spring game, if they play Colorado, that'll be great to see him go up against another defense, mind you, in, I would say some limited capacity because they don't want people getting hurt and all those things. But I know Ricky Collins is the quarterback of this team. I do know that. What do you know?
What do I know? I know that Demetrius Samuel is going to be an NFL player.
Oh, I love it.
He is 16 years old, and they are preparing him to play both sides of the ball as a true freshman. There is so much growth and potential with him. And you just don't consider that unless somebody's talent is just that good, right? Now, I'm not saying he's Travis Hunter, right? He's obviously the mold that they're trying to follow. I'm not going to go that extreme, but he is that gifted that in 2 or 3 years from now, that's where he's going to be.
Wow. That is intriguing to go NFL level. Now, we were talking to our good friend Darryl Gill Jr. yesterday, who is in the front running to be the media MVP this year. I'll just say that. Darryl's fun to talk to. Yeah, and he said that too. He said in a few years, now he's 16, so he turns 17 next month, Demetrius Samuel. So once he plays out the eligibility and can check the box to go into the NFL draft, I agree that he should be there, and he's that talented. But, man, we're talking about a 16-year-old kid right now who does not look or sound like he's 16 years old, to his credit. So I don't want to steal one from you, Chris.
I should probably throw in the injury caveat, right? I mean, I don't know.
Sure.
Then I don't know. Then I don't know. Let's say if he stays healthy.
I just love how bold that was. That was great. Now, I hate to steal one from you here, but I will partially steal something from you and say, I know this kid's getting on the field this year. Whether that's as a starting cornerback who plays a little wide receiver, he's mostly a defensive player, right? That's where he's going to be anchored here. And that kind of falls into my don't know category, Chris. I don't know how things are shaking out in the secondary. I know Deuce Chestnut's going to be out there.
Yep.
And I think I know this kid's going to be out there now. But beyond that, they're moving a lot of pieces around. And I admittedly have to pay closer attention to the secondary. I've seen them here and there in camp, but I really want to hone in on them in a couple of practices.
We haven't really seen them do one-on-ones yet.
Exactly.
We've just seen them backpedal, which it is not a great way for us to assess anybody.
There's certain positions that are harder than others to assess at spring ball. The offensive line's another one because we don't see a lot of offensive line versus defensive line, and that's how you determine how they look. But here's another one I do know, Chris. I don't know if he's going to be first team, but I do know Byron Washington's getting on the field. Because that dude's 6'8", he's 380, and here's what I've seen in drills, okay? And they're drills, I get this. But when the offensive linemen do their drills, generally what happens is it's like sumo wrestling. They kind of go back and forth. No one moves Byron Washington, even some of the best players on this team. So when they do this, Byron does not move, right?
That's true.
Like, he's a freshman. He's got to find his way. I think Dale Williams, the offensive line coach, has to be careful about this. But how do you not get that guy on the field in some capacity, whatever he's best at, if that's run protection, if that's pass protection, if he can get to a base level? And remember, they rotated both offensive and defensive linemen last year, smartly, in my opinion, considering what happens in depth and injuries and get next man up and that whole thing. But he will get on the field. So I do know that. What else is on your do know list? Unless you want to go to the don't know list.
No, we're going to stick with the freshmen, right?
Okay.
And well, I mean, same concept as you. Antoine Delorier, the linebacker, is getting on the field. He's already taken sort of, he's fourth in line in terms of reps, so he's already looks like he's sort of on the second team based on what we can see. He might be the most impressive physically as a freshman. Like just looking at him, he certainly fits in. It's comparable to their older guys, Derek McDonald, Anwar Sparrow. They lose both their starting linebackers. They have all of those reps to fill. Derek McDonald was sort of replaced by Justin Barron late last year and didn't play a whole lot of snaps at linebacker. Anwar Sparrow is a backup that came back. They have to fill all that time. And even if he struggles and maybe in covering the pass, like you're going to use that guy in when you get big up front, when you're gearing up for 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, like he is at minimum sort of a run stuffing linebacker that you're bringing in those situations with the potential to be, play a much bigger role than that.
It's a good one. I agree. Darryl Gill Jr. made a similar analogy that I did to Byron Washington, that when he hits Delorier, he doesn't move. And the best comparison I can make, Chris, for you wrestling fans out there, is the Ultimate Warrior. I mean, this kid, he puts out workout videos.
He's got workout videos as a freshman.
Go check him out on the social medias. He is jacked. My man is eating his Wheaties, to use an old school reference there for those of you that remember those commercials. I have another I do know. I do know that Emmanuel Ross is going to work his way back onto first-team depth chart status as a wide receiver. I think Justice Ross Simmons is right up there. Justice Ross Simmons, Chris, to me, and I don't know if you get the same thing when you watch the receivers, and I said this last year, and I'm just going to reiterate the point. He is an all-practice guy. He pops on the practice field. He stands out physically. He's crisp in his routes. He doesn't drop anything. Like, he is just a prototype wide receiver and always looks good in practice. We mentioned our guy, Darryl Gill Jr., who's also running track this spring, by the way, which is fascinating to work on his speed, and he's having fun out there. And it's good that Fran Brown encourages those things, and those guys can go off and run some track and do some other things out there. But then I think Ross is pushing right there. Jalen Hornsby has looked good too, and I think he's going to get on the field. And then it's a whole lot of, and he's one of them, but there's a whole lot of younger guys on that list that I'm not quite sure about yet. So they do have some veterans, and of course Trevor Pena, who we haven't mentioned, who's clearly going to be on the field and Fran Brown said he's going to be a captain of this team this year. But I like Ross a lot. He got slowed by injuries last year. Some people thought he'd go in the portal. Remember, they flipped him last minute from Tennessee. But that guy is going to catch a lot of passes from Ricky Collins this year. Stock up on him.
I like it. I can't argue with that. Justice Ross Simmons, I know he didn't put up numbers last year, but he was playing hurt, right? Like he was very, very limited physically in what he was capable of. So we have not seen what he can do.
I think even you said it too, that Gill really came on at the end of last year. Like once he knew he wasn't looking over his shoulder, it was going to be on the field and was going to make plays. Like he really started to find a groove. Now, mind you, that was with Kyle McCord. He's got to do that again with who I think is going to be Ricky Collins. But that's a guy you want on the field.
I am pretty sure, and I'll tweet it if I'm wrong. I am pretty sure he did not drop a pass last year. Their receivers were tremendous in terms of like contested catches, taking care of those fundamentals. But I'm pretty sure, according to PFF, Jarrell Gill did not drop a pass. So that is a way to earn your way onto the field, right? Just constantly reliable.
Absolutely.
And was talking to us about learning all three positions too. Just sort of like knew like I need to do everything I can to get on this field rather than waiting for my opportunity. So, and like you said, wonderful talker. We really enjoyed him.
He's great. He's great. We'll be talking to him more for sure. So we'll keep an eye on the things we don't know as camp goes along here, and maybe they become things we do know as we progress here. And we'll be back at practice on Friday. I would encourage our Syracuse Sports Insiders to not only to subscribe if you haven't already, because we've been sending you videos and analysis and observations. And that's the first thing we do. When we walk off the practice field, Chris, Javon, and I go have a nice afternoon cup of coffee. We sit down and we send you our observations and videos and the things that we took away from spring practice first, the interviews and everything that you get from Syracuse football spring practice. Our Syracuse Sports Insiders get it first, and your questions we have used to ask players and coaches what's on your mind with this team. So keep it up. All the info is right there on your screen and how you can become a Syracuse Sports Insider today. And, of course, get your voice heard on the pod as well. We got a couple questions from you guys we're going to go to here shortly. But while we're on the football subject, Chris, today Matt Miller, ESPN, noted draft guru, put out a 7-round mock draft. And there were 2 Syracuse players on that 7-round mock draft.
Don't like that.
One of them was Kyle McCord, 4th-round pick. The other was
LaQuint
Allen. Don't like. The other was LaQuint Allen, who went in the 7th round. And that was it. So I think we're willing to grant a little clemency here to Matt Miller, that short little oversight.
There were a lot of names
on
the list.
It happens. I've done these things. I've forgotten to include things. We all make mistakes. But in what world does Oronde Gadsden not get drafted?
Well,
Like, he is going to get drafted. He's the number 2 H-back on your list, on Kuiper's list, on everybody's list. He's going to get picked, okay? Yep. And he's going to get picked, I would say, by the 4th round. If maybe a little bit after that. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But at the very least, he is going to get picked and is on that list. But it does kind of create an interesting discussion about, okay, we've had Pro Day, and all these guys are making the mocks, and they're kind of going through their last drive here, if you will, into when we're really getting into draft season, right? Into
Fran's pitching them to us. Season. You know, he was giving us the hard sell on Monday.
Right. But we still got time to kill to the actual draft as the pro days wrap up and all this stuff. That's 3. All right. So if we grant you the mistake, that's McCord, Allen, OG. So I guess I would say over under 3 Syracuse guys taken in the upcoming 2025 NFL draft. I will take the over, by the way.
I will too.
I will take the over on that.
I think they get 4.
I agree with you.
And I don't know which one it will be between
I'm still
Fadil
debating
Diggs
that myself.
and Elijah Clark. But I feel like both of them, like Fadil's combine physical traits were, insane. And, Elijah Clark's physical abilities had him as considered one of the top NFL draft picks on this Syracuse team before the season started. So, I think it'll be one of those 2 guys that makes it. Some team that just likes the physical traits, but I don't know which one it will be.
I think McCord's going higher than the 4th round. I don't like that he's the 8th quarterback.
Nope.
So we know that Cam Ward's going not only as the first quarterback, but potentially the first pick in the draft. It's interesting what we saw happen this week, Chris. I was convinced the Giants were going to trade up and pick Cam Ward, and then they signed Russell Wilson to go in a room with Jameis Winston and our guy, Tommy DeVito, right? That's a very interesting quarterback room, which tells me they're not drafting a quarterback. Could be wrong. It'd be the hell of a thing if Joe Shane picks a quarterback with those guys in the room. Yeah. So you got Ward, but whoever he goes to, Shedeur Sanders will be the second quarterback. And that's when the discussion starts. Is Jackson Dart the third guy? Tyler Shugg has gotten a lot of love in this quarterback analysis, right?
Yep.
You can throw a couple of names, other Quinn Ewers, the Will Howard discussion at Ohio State. Interesting how Will Howard and Kyle McCord
they can't get away from each other.
Can't get away from each other. But, man, I think McCord is the 4th or 5th best quarterback at worst, right? And I think this is by design in a way. I think a lot of teams that are interested in McCord are trying as best as they can, even though it's the highest profile position in the sport, to be like, hey, just, keep it on the down low talking about my guy McCord here, because I think we're going to slip in there and grab that guy a lot higher than people think, right? The New Orleans Saints sit there at the 9th pick, Chris, and I'm not going to sit here and say that Kyle McCord is going to be the 9th pick in the draft, but I am intrigued by that team wanting McCord. I'm intrigued by the Jets who love McCord. I'm intrigued by a couple other teams that need quarterbacks that have the picks in the 2nd and 3rd round that will take him. I don't think he makes it out of the 3rd round. That's just my opinion. I'd be stunned if he was the 8th quarterback taken in this draft, but weirder things have happened. So I think McCord will go. I think in no particular order here. OG is certainly going to get picked. I think 4th or 5th round. LaQuint Allen, I'm going to keep saying this, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Not only is he going to get drafted, the Denver Broncos are going to pick LaQuint Allen. Okay, pick your round, whatever it is, he's going there. Elijah Clark, I believe, will get picked on day 3, somewhere, probably 6th round or so. And you brought it up, Chris. Not only his athleticism, his versatility is big.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think Fidel Diggs will get picked for the same reason.
Wow, you're going.
I think somebody's going to look at Fidel and they're going to say, look, he could play linebacker and edge. I could work him in here. I want to see this guy in a camp. I want to see if he fits my defense. I think he is going to get picked. I don't think Marlo Wax or Justin Barron will get picked, although Marlo had a great pro day and got back on a lot of radars. There are more free agent invites, work your way in. Barron's just adjusting to a linebacker, so I think that could work against him.
I feel bad for not mentioning Jackson Meeks here, but
I don't think Meeks will get picked. But he is definitely a guy I could see getting in a camp and proving some people wrong. I just don't think he's going to get drafted. Nothing against him.
He is such a professional wide receiver. Right?
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. Right? Like, he blocks, he catches everything, he has a good catch radius. Maybe, I don't think he has the reputation for running the fastest. He's maybe not the explosive guy that you take as a draft pick, but he is like a pure professional who, if I were a team, I would make him like the highest priority free agent.
Great red zone threat, too, because he can get up.
Yeah.
How many touchdowns did we see where Kyle just lofted it up there and he's soaring through the air saying, I want to go grab that thing. But 2 guys? I don't know. Matt Miller probably woke up today and said, oops.
Yeah. I felt bad. At first I tweeted, I was like, no OG. And then I looked at it and, he had his number 1 and his number 3 H-backs both being taken, one in the 4th round and one in the 6th. So I was like, I think he just skipped a name somewhere in this process.
I think that happened. That's happened. When I was an AP voter, I forgot to vote.
Yeah.
Boy, I can't remember exactly when it was, but let me put it to you this way. It was a time when Baylor was certainly a top 10 pick, or top 10 team in the country, and I just forgot to put him in my poll.
Yeah.
And boy, did I hear from the Baylor fans about that. That was fun. It happens. Everybody makes mistakes. To the insiders we go, Chris. Some good questions and comments from our Syracuse Sports Insiders here. Paul DT says, I know that Syracuse has a tough schedule this fall. I predicted 6-6 after all the departures from last year's team, many of which we were just talking about. But I'm slowly becoming more optimistic.
That's what happens in spring.
That's what happens in spring ball. Is my optimism misplaced? I wouldn't put it that way, Paul, but let me just say this. There was a story out there today from Adam Rittenberg of ESPN who ranked, and he did this, Chris, by talking to defensive coaches and other coaches in their respective leagues, right? So he ranked what he thinks is the top 15 incoming quarterbacks into college football. Did you see this today? Did you see my tweet about this?
I saw your tweet.
Okay, so you did, because I was going to quiz you. So for those that don't know, Syracuse will play 6 of those quarterbacks. 6 of the best 15 incoming quarterbacks in college football. That's tough, right? So, Paul, your 6-6-ish record, I think, is your optimism is not misplaced if you think they could maybe bump up a little bit. But I think realistically right now, that's kind of where they're falling at this point. With a new quarterback and everything they're putting on the field next year and the adjustments they have to make, logic would tell you that's a good place to be.
I was having this conversation yesterday. Like, Syracuse's schedule next year is like Alabama's schedule was last year. It's an SEC level schedule where like 9-3 almost got Alabama into the playoffs. So Syracuse, I think 6-6 is a pretty reasonable thing. They are going to be a better 6-6 team than we are accustomed to, if that's what happens, right? Like, they are not a 500 team in terms of talent, but like that might be what the schedule dictates because that's what the schedule is.
And 2 of my biggest questions on this team are defensive line and secondary. And you're playing a lot of good quarterbacks, a couple of which are going to be high on the list to win the Heisman next year.
They're going to be so young. Like we talked about Demetrius Samuel, but he also he might start. So you're talking about those quarterbacks and then maybe like a freshman starter as a true
if he
freshman,
proves us wrong, great. But if I'm Kate Klubnik and I see a 17-year-old out there, I'm going to challenge him a little bit. I'm going to pick on him a little bit, see what he can do, right? A couple more from our insiders. Roger B says, I think LaQuint Allen's going to surprise many people and will be a better pro than many people expect. I think Allen, Mel Kiper Jr. loves him, by the way. And the reason Kiper loves him is his versatility, his pass catching ability. Physically, he's there. It's a deep running back draft, right? But even in a deep running back draft, what makes you stand out is if you have the combined passing and rushing numbers. And he had back-to-back 1,000-yard rushing seasons. But LaQuint has really evolved and blossomed as a great pass catcher, and that's going to, I think, make him stand out in this is as deep a running back draft as I have seen in a long time, Chris. And, who said the running back was dead in the NFL? There's going to be a lot of guys. There's probably going to be most running backs picked. I can't even make a reference to the last time we saw this many. Everybody feels like there's going to be a run on this position.
Yeah. And I'm guilty of this too. Like when I looked at LaQuint at the start of the season, I was looking for like a workhorse running back. And I don't know that he's going to be that at the NFL level, but he is like a perfect third down, every third, fourth series type of guy who's versatile and he's not giving anything away when you have him on the field. So I agree with Roger.
One more here, Chris, from my guy Nick, who says, I just watched the Dan Villari interview and also watched Jeff Nixon's full interview. And Nick says, it seems like Dan is going to have a bigger role than I anticipated, and it's good to hear and see. Chris, I think Dan Villari is one of the more intriguing storylines to follow because there's room for that guy on the field. He is a leader on this team. He stays after with Ricky Collins after every practice, and they do some throwing drills along with some other guys. But Dan is always there.
Trevor Pena won, and we have noticed Ricky seems to be the one who the guys are working with post practice immediately.
It's not to say that the other quarterbacks are working with these guys out of our purview, but Ricky's the guy that stays after and works right to the bitter end. Proverbial first guy in, last guy out kind of thing. Villari's always there and a part of that. Now, you've got some talented tight ends in that room, though. In a world where coaches tell you nothing, Jeff Nixon told us yesterday that David Clement's getting the most reps at tight end. And why wouldn't he? It's 6'6", 256. Jamie Tremble's another talented tight end in the mold of an OG that's going to step up. But you got to find room for Dan Villari on the field somewhere. But if we're being honest here, Chris, Villari had some issues with drops last year. Okay, and these were throws that were right on the money. Just couldn't get it down at times with McCord. It's almost like McCord knew the route better than Villari, with the ball where it needed to be, and Dan just a step slower at times. But I'm sorry, that's a guy who you find a role for one way or the other. And I agree with Nick in the sense that it's good that they think that way. If this guy's going to stick around and be the leader that he is in that locker room and everything he puts in, there's somewhere on the field for Villari. I don't know if that's an everyday role. I don't know if he's a top tight end, given the talent and the size in that room, but he'll be on the field one way or the other. He has to be, right?
I think it's like he is pretty late in coming to the tight end position. So I think it's probably pretty understandable that maybe like running the downfield routes and behaving like a wide receiver were like have been like the toughest part for him. And like when he got us all excited and he was a helpful player, like it was because they didn't have anybody else and they like had to get the ball into his hands, and he was tough enough to make something happen with those opportunities. And like last year they just had playmakers, right? Like they had playmakers everywhere on offense. We talked about all of them. They don't have it to quite the degree next year. So I suspect they are going to maybe work a little bit more to get the ball in Dan's hands in certain situations, maybe than just like have him be like a part of the offense and run some plays. So, you know, I think he is, right? David Clement, Jeff Nixon compared him to Max Mang, who was a very good blocker on last year's team, but like you would not call that a playmaker. And Jamie Tremble is still young and needs to put on some weight. So Dan is maybe your best combination, at least right now, of sort of playmaking and like tight end size and strength. So I certainly think they want him to be that guy, and they'll do everything they can to sort of get him there.
Great questions and comments, as always, from our Syracuse Sports Insiders. And keep them coming, guys. The spring practice goes along. The portal's open. We're into lacrosse season as well. Syracuse plays Virginia this weekend, who's not the typical Virginia, but not a team that Syracuse can overlook going into a tough ACC slate. Just classic trap game coming up here Saturday. They're going to take care of business on. We'll keep you updated on all of that, not only on the Syracuse Sports Insider text line, but here on Syracuse Sports Podcast. So we hope that you have subscribed on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. So when a new episode pops up, you can watch and listen on demand. We'll be doing this on Thursdays live as well. And being a Syracuse Sports Insider, we'll keep you up to date on when those shows are coming. But that's going to do it for this live edition of Syracuse Sports. For Chris Carlson, I'm Brent Axe. You guys have a great weekend, and we will talk to you again next time.